think once we stay connected with people, once I call it open up the government, and let people recognize that they can help contribute to the challenges, to solving the challenges they face, then I think we're well on our way to beginning the Caribbean rebirth, as I call it.
Who is Dickon Mitchell?
Who am I? Well, I mean, I can give you sort of basic, frequently asked questions. I'm 45, I'll be 45 in October. A lawyer by profession. I've been a lawyer for the last 20 years. Politics only 10, 11 months now. Father of 2 kids, a 15-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl. Born, bred in Grenada. I was educated at University of West Indies, Cable campus, and then Hewling Law School in Trinidad. I never had a desire to leave the Caribbean, although I was educated in Barbados, Trinidad. My parents actually lived in England and Canada respectively, and most of my siblings actually do live outside of Grenada except for one. But my sense always was that despite what people tell you, it's never as glamorous in the UK and America as people may make you think it is, and I felt that once I had a good education, that there was an opportunity for me to make a decent life for myself in Grenada. And so I always stayed put, and that has happened. I've always been motivated by the need to try and see others do well. I grew up in a small village called Petit Esperance, French. We were once a French colony, so most of our village names are still French. I walked to school, primary school. There was also a secondary school close by that you could also walk, but I was fortunate enough to go to Presentation Brothers College, which is undoubtedly, I would say, the elite boys' school on the island. We have a rival, but we will talk about that another time.
Yes.
And that really shaped my teenage years, both in terms of education, in terms of aspiration, in terms of social cohesion, because you make friends at secondary school, and you tend to have them for life. So I was fortunate enough to have experienced that. I think the other thing that PVC taught me as well is that regardless of your social or family or ethnic background, that if you worked hard, and in Caribbean language, if you were bright,
yes,
that people would respect you. And I think in that sense, my background never was an issue, as long as you were prepared to compete and compete based on merit. And so coming out of that, I think I always had the confidence that regardless of where I was or who I was with, that no one would, in a sense, condescend to me. Or I wouldn't feel that way, because it was, in my view, if you worked hard and you were willing to do what was required, you could be successful. So that certainly left a mark on me. And so education is something that I've always sort of championed. And whenever I get a chance to help someone to get an education, I certainly try and help. So to some extent, I came back after finishing Hewling Law School, joined the law firm. I was out of every tragedy comes opportunities. We had a devastating hurricane in 2004, Hurricane Ivan. I was only 2 years into practice then. And the principal of the firm was diagnosed with cancer, and she died in 2005. And so I got the opportunity to buy the law firm 3 years into practice now. So what I did was to invite 2 of my colleagues who are same age friends, and they joined me. We bought the firm and practiced until 2016. And at the end of 2016, I actually left and started a new firm, Mitchell & Co. Most of the staff, some of the attorneys, they moved with me. And then 4 years later, I decided that the time had come for me to do some public service. And so I got involved in politics, joined the National Democratic Congress. Within 2 months of joining, became political leader. And 9 months later, I was leading the party into a general election.
At the time when you were in law practice, did you have any interest at all in politics, or certainly representational politics?
No, I would say no, but I always followed politics. I mean, I think I've always liked politics. I've liked, history. I've always liked economics, particularly development economics. So I think I always read a lot, about how and why countries develop, or how sometimes they're underdeveloped. So I always, in a sense, would say I had a critical eye as to whether our political leaders were doing the things that they ought to do from a Caribbean civilization point of view. And I would certainly say that I felt, to some extent, the current leaders, certainly when I was a lawyer across the Caribbean, I felt was, to some extent, letting down our people. I think if you look at our forefathers, certainly those coming out of the immediate post-independence colonization era, for all of their limitations or shortcomings, I think there was a desire to want more for us. And you can see that in the fact that most of the institutions we have today were started or founded by them. And I didn't feel that the next generation of leaders were taking that same aspirational approach and was trying to drag the Caribbean or move the Caribbean forward. But instead, you felt that the focus was on remaining in office and the trappings of office and all of that comes with it, the corruption, etc., etc. So there were times when, without doubt, as a citizen of the Caribbean, I was a bit despondent about, where we were going, the wastage of, public resources and not focusing on the things that made the Caribbean grow. And so I certainly felt at times quite despondent, but I always was keen on following politics. I never really thought whether I would actually get involved. For obvious reasons, I was a relatively successful lawyer, had a relatively comfortable life, and you know that politics is a difficult art or science. So it's not something that someone would usually just rush into. So certainly at that time, I didn't have any interest in it. I'm enjoying serving the people. Obviously, it's very demanding. You have to manage a lot of expectations. There's also a lot of educating that has to be done, because I think our politics in the past have become very transactionalized. So people take a transaction approach to things, and you have to be able to say, we're here to develop and build the country. And it's not a transaction. It's not $5 for a vote, that sort of thing. It really is about how do we get solutions that generally will improve the wealth of all of us. So when it comes to education, it's not just whether my child can get a scholarship. It's whether we can get to an education system where all of the children have access to education and good education. But it will take time. Yeah. I think it will take a lot of interacting with the citizens to make sure they understand that. And I think we're well on our way to doing that. I mean, the feedback I've gotten, which is surprising to me, is that many times when I speak with citizens, they will say things to me like, I've never spoken to the Prime Minister. I've never actually been close to the Prime Minister. And usually I'm taken aback because I would think as the Prime Minister, your job is in fact to meet with your people as often as you can.
But that's kind of hard because you have a security blanket around.
But still, when you're campaigning, you don't have a security blanket. And you have to remember that. You didn't campaign for security, you campaign to represent people. And so you have to, within the confines of whatever restrictions you have, be accessible to your people, go to them, meet with them. They don't always have to come to you. And find out what are the issues. Sometimes just listen to them, because some of the best ideas do come from them, so because they're the ones dealing with a lot of the challenges and they have solutions. Sometimes they just need a little air or a little encouragement or a little help, so I think once we stay connected with people, once I call it open up the government, and let people recognize that they can help contribute to the challenges, to solving the challenges they face, then I think we're well on our way to beginning the Caribbean rebirth, as I call it, in terms of our perspectives on governing.